Let's see here. Okay, now Judith, you got your questions, and you ran through all the yellow paper. Yeah. Okay, and then put it this way, and yeah, I mean you guys know the drill. So at least 30 minutes. You know, if I don't think we'll have to worry about you running out of questions.
Okay.
But you know, again, our bare minimum is like 30 minutes. Let's see here, and then once you're finished, just come down and give me a call. Then I'll print out some of those forms and we'll get those out of the way. And before you leave, I don't know when are you leaving us today? Or do you have to get that?
I'm not sure.
Okay. Good. How about this? We'll finish this, and then I'll get the paperwork done, and then there's I think the last one. We need just I think your name or your signature on that. Okay. So let's see here. And okay,
You're
Jude.
going to turn it open, is that right?
Yeah. So again, it's running now, but like I said, we're not officially doing the interview just yet. Okay, so it's running, timer, we're good. Okay, I'm gonna sit here or here to the left. Okay, let's take this over here. Okay. And then you got a great view of Anna. Let's see here, make sure these.
Do I look at Judith during the matter?
Yeah, you can look at Judith.
Okay, I feel more comfortable.
Don't worry about it, let's say you're all lined up, so when I close that door, now I've got these signs here, so no one should accidentally come up here. All right, you guys all set?
Yes.
Okay, I will leave you be, and remember, this is gonna be your interview, so anything you don't want to talk about, obviously don't talk about. Anything you do want to cover, yeah, go ahead.
Okay.
All right, well, hey, good luck to you
Thanks,
guys.
Sherman.
All right.
Thank you, Sherman.
All right, have fun.
Good morning, how are you today?
Good morning, good, thank you.
Today is August 13th, 2018. My name is Judith Jenkins. I'm a volunteer with the Hanford branch of the Kings County Library Veterans History Project. Would you please state your full name?
Joseph Glenn Koutny.
Glad to have you.
Thank you.
I'd like to start the interview with asking you a few questions here to get some background information and to let the public know what your history was like with the military. Let's start with where you're from.
I was born in Waukegan, Illinois, and then was raised in Tulare, California. We migrated there. My father was in the military, and we went to Long Beach. Via Long Beach, we came up to Tulare, and we were raised in Tulare through school.
Okay. So are your parents still with us now?
My father's passed. Who raised me, my stepfather who raised me is passed. My biological father's still alive, and my mother's still alive.
Okay, great. What do they do for a living?
Well, I don't have a relationship with my biological father, unfortunately, but I believe he's in investment, so I'm not sure what he does. My mother is retired. She's twice widowed, once divorced, and so she's still enjoying life right now. She's, like I said, retired and living in Michigan.
Nice. Do you have any siblings? And what are their ages?
I do. I have 3 brothers.
Okay.
Danny, my brother below me, he's 55, 53, and then my youngest brother Jimmy, he's 47.
Mm-hmm.
And they all live in Kalamazoo area, Michigan.
Okay.
Southwest Michigan.
Okay. That's home for them.
For them.
Yeah. Okay. And did they serve?
Of those 3, 2 served, both in the Army. They served abroad, actually.
Okay.
Over in Europe in some different places, I'm not exactly sure. But they both did one tour, peacetime tour.
Okay. So what did you do before serving?
Got in trouble too much, to be honest with you. But I was a body and fender guy, young guy, growing up, and I love doing body and fender work, paint work on cars, and that's kind of what I did prior to enlisting.
Okay. And what branch of service did you serve in?
United States Navy.
Okay. So were you drafted or enlisted?
I enlisted
What year?
1981.
Okay. What inspired your choice of the branch of military, Navy?
Well, my core inspiration was my father, who I mentioned. My stepfather raised me. He was a 11-year veteran himself, chief petty officer. It always was on my mind all through school, along with other things, of course, but it was always on my mind. And then when I got in trouble with the law, to be quite honest, that really progressed everything. Mm-hmm. So like a lot of, during that era, unfortunately, we had options. And the judge gave me some options when I was in trouble. So I was motivated by multiple things. running from things and wanting to fulfill a dream that my father had always put in me about his service.
Okay. So how was the boot camp experience?
Rough
Rough.
to be honest with you. My current wife, was pregnant with our child, so it was pretty rough. The timing was not good on me, but that's life. Boot camp can be traumatic for some people and easy for others. For me, I would say it was relatively easy physically. Mentally, there's those issues, but I got through it.
Okay, let's talk about your military life and adjusting to it. Did you have any favorite instructors or leaders that influenced you?
When I first became in the active duty,
Yes.
yeah, that was a rough time for me because I really regretted coming in after a while. Didn't want to be there. Didn't want to deploy. Didn't want to do what I was supposed to do. As I look back at it, wasn't conforming very well, if you know what I mean. It's a miracle of God, really, that I got through it and got to the point where I'm at. But that first 4 years was I was deployed a lot overseas on a carrier, lots of time away. And so, again, a little bit rough, but I got through it. You know what I mean?
Yeah. You mean like away from the family?
Away from the family, not wanting to be, made a mistake in listing.
Yes.
I'm sure a lot of guys and gals go through that, I assume, because I'm not unique in that area. But again, I just thank God I got through that, to be honest with you.
So, was there any specialized training that you had? How long was it?
In my career or in that early time?
During that time that you were in the Navy?
Little, not much. Mostly it was on the job, learning the aircraft I was on down in San Diego. I was stationed down in San Diego. I was working on anti-submarine warfare aircraft. But just the basic training coming through boot camp, and then the follow-up training was just real generic. And then I went to my first command and just learned on the job. Because
There's no specialized schools or anything?
Not for that. Not for that first tour. Not for me anyway.
Okay. Did you deploy before or during the start of combat operations?
I deployed during multiple combat operations as a carrier sailor, specifically during the buildup of the Gulf War and during the Gulf War.
Okay.
That was later in my career.
Okay. Was your assignment close to the fighting?
Well, if you call us, we were in the Persian Gulf.
Right.
And on patrol, so we were launching sorties over the area that was in conflict, Iraq, Kuwait. We kind of helped liberate Kuwait. We didn't go on the land.
Okay, stayed in the water. Okay, what were some of the stresses associated with your assignments?
Well, the unknown. There's a lot of unknown. A lot of civilians don't understand what goes on out there. This is pre-email. This is a lot of the technology stuff, if you know what I mean.
Yes.
So it was coming along in the middle of my career. Now I'm thinking about the middle of my career, about 9, 10, 12-year time period. That's when I was over in the Gulf on the Nimitz. Just the unknown and not knowing how long, if you're going to get extended on tour, on station they call it. And that goes on today, of course, with Iraq and all the other places, Afghanistan. So, because you know pretty much when you go there, you're in for something. You're just not sure. So it all comes back to serving.
Exactly. So how would you say that the experiences that you went through impacted your life in full?
Oh. It impacts the way I see everything, really.
Positive or negative?
Positive. I try to be empathetic. I was driving up here for this interview, and I was thinking about the people that are underway right now in different bodies of water that I can relate to. Then, of course, I think about the other folks that are doing it on the ground that I can't relate to, but I know they're there. So, but they're still human beings. They're still serving, and they've got moms and dads and uncles back home. And so, it has to impact you to some extent.
Yes.
And so, I wasn't walking with the Lord back then until about the middle of my career. That I've often wondered if I had been stronger in my faith, would that have helped me get through it easier?
I see.
But to answer your question, it impacts it every day when you turn the TV on and the radio, whatever.
Yes.
It has to some extent.
Yes.
Positive and negative.
Yeah. Tell me about your military friendships that you had along the way. Did you stay in contact with them?
Well, because I'm still in the area that I served 17 years here at NES Lemoore, California.
Okay.
And I'm still a contractor on the jets. I'm still doing the same thing, basically.
Okay.
So I'm still seeing a lot of those same people. I'm fortunate that way.
Okay.
There's a lot from my first early tours that I never have any contact with,
Okay.
which happens to military folks.
Okay.
You come in, you meet, you hang out, you fight, you do what you do, and then you leave.
Move on.
And so, but I'm fortunate that I have friends and family that are still in the air that I run into every now and then,
Okay.
certainly.
So you're in contact with them because of your station there.
Right.
And do you still stay in touch with your other family members too? Are you still?
Oh yeah, my own family?
Yes.
From my own kid, yeah, oh yeah.
Right.
Yeah, I stay in very close. I have in-laws in Visalia, California here in the area. And then from my wife's side rather.
Okay.
And then, like I said, my family's out in the Midwest and Michigan, so that's a challenge. But we do stay in contact.
Okay. That's good. Excuse me. Are there any specific memories that you had while you were in service that still stand out in your life today? Positive or negative?
Oh,
doesn't
yeah.
matter.
I have some great role models that I look back to, specifically some commanding officers that stood out, some that didn't, that weren't very positive in my life. I'm thinking about a commanding officer here at the base. He was a great example. Commander Koutny was his name. I think he made admiral eventually. He was just a great example of the troops, the way they carried himself and talked to people.
Yes.
Down to earth.
Yes.
He's a fighter pilot.
Yes.
So I think about those jump out. As far as day-to-day stuff, I did a couple of repairs that I'm proud of that happened, things of that nature, hands-on stuff, So yeah, there's a lot. When you think about 21 years, or that's a lot of years of a life, a snapshot, but mainly positive. Of course there was negatives. I was in trouble, like I said earlier on in my enlisted career, could have been kicked out at any time, truth be known. And I think about those people who I don't know to this day who were looking out for me, trying to keep me in, keep me going without getting a bad discharge or something that would haunt me. And so those are the unknowns that I thank God for.
Okay. Were you awarded any medals or citations?
Yeah, I've received multiple awards. Supervisor of the Quarter, Supervisor of the Month when I was in. I received the Kuwait Liberation Medal for helping liberate Kuwait. Multiple unit citations from our commands doing good things, or if the carrier did good things. A couple of rifle and pistol stuff, just small stuff like that. Navy Achievement Medal.
Okay. So would you like to speak about wounded or fallen comrades at this point?
Well, I don't know any that died in battle, to be honest with you. We've lost people at sea. We've lost pilots at sea. It's part of what we do. I mean, just going out and training is dangerous.
Right.
Just forget war, forget battle, forget conflict. I always tell my mom this, there's 1,000 ways to die out there if you're not careful. Just accidents happen. So I think about that. But yeah, I've been very fortunate, to be honest with you, in that regard.
Do you recall the day your service ended? What was it like for you?
When I retired,
Yes.
yeah, it was sombering, I guess is the word.
Relief, like?
It was over, but there's an unknown that follows it. There's an unknown for the military veteran who's done 25, 30 years, or probably even 10 years. Not necessarily a retiree, but you've been regimented for so long, whatever your service is, Marine Corps. For me, it was that unknown. Now what? Even though you're in your 40s, you're still kind of in that. And yeah, it was over. That was a big deal. No more going to sea. No more deploying. I had enough of that, to be honest with you.
I can imagine. Can you describe the readjustment to civilian life then that you had? And you said that facing the unknown. So how did you bridge that?
Well, I moved back to Michigan. For me, it was not a smooth transition. I can't speak for anybody else, but when I moved back to Michigan after retiring from the Valley, so then I went to a different geographical area. That was a challenge in itself. Our family didn't adjust very well. So we went through some problems there as a family, and ended up moving back. So I think it matters where you relocate. I think knowing the area, and I had support back in the Midwest, like I told you, my family, but they can't do it all for you. You have to.
That's true.
And so, some regrets about my transition, but by and large, just learning slow, the hard way.
So what occupation or what job did you get into after your retirement from service?
Well, I went into a factory. I worked for an axle manufacturing company called American Axle. I was making drive shafts and axles for cars. I was just doing production, trying to make a living.
Okay.
And that's what I did until I ended up coming back to the Valley. And then I hustled for a while, so to speak, trying to put food on the table. And then I finally got into doing what I'm doing now. I'm a contractor on the jet. I've been doing that for 14 years. So,
is that satisfying for you?
yeah, I kind of found my niche.
Okay.
And it was always right there.
Right.
It was always right where I was at. So
Didn't see it.
Didn't see it. Had the blinders on, I guess.
Okay. So did you continue your education at some point, and was it supported through the GI Bill?
I haven't been very wise on the GI Bill. I've had opportunities for Montgomery and the different ones that were out there, Veep, and I did pursue the post 911 GI Bill. I did pursue that, but I couldn't. It wouldn't work for me because they would only pay for my education only, which was good. Don't get me wrong, but there was no real big carrot for me other than that. It doesn't fit into my family schedule. So, but it was out there, and I appreciated being available.
Okay. All right. Do you attend any reunions, military reunions, or anything like, or ceremonies?
I haven't since I've been out. I haven't attended any that I've been attached to. Every now and then I'll go to a retirement ceremony for someone, or a change of command. Not very often. There's a lot of change of commands going out there.
Sure.
But the retirement ceremonies still mean a lot.
So what life lessons or observations did you gather from your full experience of being in the military for as long as you have, and then leaving, retiring?
Overview of it is, it can be a great experience, the enlisted side or the officer side. And it can be successful, and that's what they want for you. They don't want you to struggle in there. They don't want you to, even though we have ups and downs. My thing is, if you go in for the wrong reasons, if you enlist for the wrong reasons, that can be a problem.
Well, give an example of what do you mean by wrong reasons?
Well, are you running from life?
Okay.
Are you running from something? Are you trying to evade, for instance? Those are reasons. Or maybe you just want to change, then that's fine, I think. Maybe you're burned out on your 9-to-5 job, I don't know. So I would advise on that. The military wants you to commit and sacrifice. That's the key word you got to hang on to. I don't care what service it is, Corps, Army, Air Force, Coast Guard, whatever. They're going to want you to sacrifice. They're not going to want you to have a cake job when you first come in. So to the new recruit, the new enlistee, or the potential officer going to college and getting that degree and becoming an officer, they're going to want something from your life, usually anywhere from 4 to 10 years. So unless your head's around that, you might want to think that through.
It's true. Well, how have your experiences impacted your outlook on military service and the war today? The deployments and our support, our external support.
Yeah, it's hard to get your head around. I am confident as I sit here that our leadership at the highest levels has a handle, and they have a good picture of the mess the world's in. Unlike when I was in, I don't feel it was either commit or don't. I guess is what it comes down to for the average person out there, the grunt, the sailor, the ground pound. You know what I'm saying? To just commit. And then if we perish, we perish for our country. But if you don't commit, then we're kind of like our hands are tied,
Yes.
and then we feel it all the way down
Yes.
to the grassroots level, or whatever you want to call it.
Yes.
And I know it frustrates the generals and the admirals and the heavy hitters up there who are making these calls. So they just want to have that freedom to say, all right.
So you still feel that this is a good choice for young men and women who are not sure of what they want to do with their life and how productive they want to be as American citizens?
I think it can be a win-win
Okay.
for a young person coming out of school, coming out of high school, not knowing, or even if they delay it for a few years into their 20s. You know, I didn't come right out of high school doing it. A lot don't. So if you're lost and you're just kind of out there, it could be a win-win. Just know that it's not easy.
Okay. The future generations are going to see this interview. So what would you like them to know specifically? What would you like to share with them at this point?
The word that comes to my mind as you're asking that question is sacrifice.
Okay.
Of course, there's benefits that go along with it, and our government's always going to hopefully look out for the vets. The active duty get priority. They should know that they're going to have priority over guys like myself and gals like myself. But do not go into thinking it's a cakewalk. It's not a cakewalk. That's why we're the greatest country on earth.
Right. Okay. Is there anything else that you feel on your heart that specifically that you would like to share at this point too?
I'm just honored to be here, number one, and sharing this little tool that's going to hopefully help generations, maybe, I don't know. But I'm honored to be able to say I served and contributed a little bit to our freedom. If our next generations don't take it serious, this military service, and they don't, it's going to be a problem. It's going to weaken our country overall, and that is one concern I have.
Okay, another question I wanted to ask you too about your MOS and that you were working with the avionics group. How did you feel about what you trained for? Did you have an election of what you wanted to be trained for? Or were you appointed that this was the type of technical training that was offered and you had to take?
Well, actually, it wasn't avionics. I said I'm aviation instructor.
I'm sorry,
That's
aviation
okay.
instructor.
That's okay.
My correction.
For me, my background was painting. I told you I painted when I first came in, when I was in the civilian side. And I kept telling my recruiter that, so they were trying to find a place for me. But to get to your question, I felt like the Navy used its assets to find a niche for me that would work. And I'm really grateful about that.
Okay.
And it took a while now. My first 4 years, it didn't work out. And then I got into what my skill set was, so to speak.
Okay.
And that's the challenge, I think, about the military, to find that MOS you're finding. We call it NEC.
Right.
You called it MOS. To find that, make them comfortable and make them an asset in that little world, so they can do what they got to do on whatever it is, a tank, a jet, or whatever it is,
Right.
and be an asset. And then take those skills out. Take those skills from A schools, C schools, specialized schools, like you said, and use them.
Do you feel that with today's jobs that are out there listed, and there's so many different areas in life that young people who've been in the military can choose to do once they come out of the military, do you feel that a lot of the technical training helps prepare them for that next step in life?
No doubt, no doubt. I don't care if it's coming out of a boot camp type atmosphere into specialized school, or if you're out in the fleet and you get sent to learn a trade. That's what we're talking about, is trades here, basically. Specialized trades, avionic, electronic, you name it. That's the aviation world. That goes through all throughout it. Corpsmen's, the military is huge, as you know, and it's a vast, complex setup. And there's a lot of options out there for the young person. Dental, you name it. You can't believe how much options there are. And so, if you're willing to sacrifice and you're willing to kind of suck it up, you can get those schools. And the Navy will see that you care and you want that. And then you can make a decision come time for your end of your obligation. You can either continue on and use it,
Right.
or move on and take it out. You know,
Right.
a lot of folks don't like the military. They don't like the style it is and all that, and so they can use that and move on and not have bitter feelings and all that, hopefully, and still have been a veteran, you know. So.
All right. Some other questions too that I wanted to address at this time. How do you see the impact of our military services carrying on the attention to young people when they come in, to keep them fully trained, fully aware of our political situation, and help them to understand and realize and be responsible that this is what they have to do, but this is a full commitment, as you said. It's not just a cakewalk. Do you still feel that we're doing our job? Military is still doing their job, this, or would there be expansion? That, just some feelings, and what do you think about that?
Is the question, how do I feel about how the government sees that?
No,
Am I missing?
not bringing the government,
Okay.
just the military. Do you feel the military is still training effectively soldiers?
Hands down, hands down. I can't speak for what I don't know,
Right.
which would be the Corps and the Air Force.
Right.
I got a little bit of touch because I'm an Airedale, I'm an aviation guy.
Right,
And so that's an important asset, of course, amen? So I can tell you, you don't get near that jet, you don't do those things on it without that training, period. And the Navy is hardcore on that, you know, because these guys, we put them up there, this is their lives, these gals and guys fighting. Whether it's a fighter jet or even a cargo jet, whatever, it's important. Carrier operations specifically are unforgiving. There's not a lot of room for error. So they take this stuff you're talking about, training, very serious. Qualifications, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. You gotta earn them.
okay. And some, I have another question I'd like to share with you. At this time, if you were asked to speak at a veterans conference, whether it's an unconference or regular veterans conference, about leadership positions that you could work your way up to open civilians who might be interested. Open youth civilians who might be interested. Would you also include your experience as being a high point to maybe persuade them to join the military? Or would you just speak specifically of the opportunities of training and growth that they will obtain once they go through the training that the military offers, any branch?
So my audience would be youth of the day.
Yes,
Okay, gotcha,
Yes.
gotcha. That's a good one.
because the youth of today, a lot of them still seem to be very confused about what they want to do.
Right, I would concur with that. I would be open to speaking on any level about the pros, the cons, the truths that as I know them, in regards to military service. And so the challenge for each of us who've done multiple tours or full careers is to be forthright with them and let them know. Again, I go back because I just think it's sacrifice. It's just like our journey. And as a man of faith, I believe that too. It's a sacrifice we do. And in this case, for our country. So at some point, I gotta emphasize, if I was called to do that, that this is all about the country. And so I don't know if this generation knows about the history of our country. That concerns me. You know, they really know about the core of what we've went through.
Exactly.
And so I wouldn't want to go too crazy with that and start preaching, but I definitely would emphasize potentially this is crucial to our carrying on for the next generation.
Yes,
And so
yes,
I have the same concerns you do in that regard.
yes.
And I could take a Q&A on it, no problems, and probably do okay with it. But again, just my little snapshot of it, hopefully be beneficial.
Well, veterans are so very important, especially in today's society, because not only do they have to be recognized, and they have to be respected for their time and their sacrifice. And like you stated before, life doesn't just give us a garden bed of posies. You have to go out and earn something. You have to go out and make something of yourself. And all of us who have that opportunity to go into the military and to learn like you have learned, I think are also blessed, in my opinion.
Thank you.
Okay. We want to thank you so much for taking time for this interview. And above all, we want to thank you for the service to our country,
You're welcome.
to this country.